Hey, this is Chris. Today we're going to continue our discussion regarding the covenants. And today we're going to talk a little bit more about the new covenant. And to do so, we are going to go to Hebrews chapter 8, beginning in the 8th verse, and talk about the prophecy from Jeremiah regarding the new covenant. For he finds fault with them when he says, "Behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will establish a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Not like the covenant I made with their fathers on the day when I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt. For they did not continue in my covenant, and so I showed no concern for them, declares the Lord. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares the Lord. I will put my laws into their minds and write them on their hearts, and I will be their God. They shall be my people. And they shall not teach each one his neighbor and each one his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them to the greatest, for I will be merciful toward their iniquities, and I will remember their sins no more." One of the greatest misconceptions about this passage, about what Jeremiah had to say, is the meaning of the word law. Most people, I am sure, if you asked 100 Christians, I am sure what Jeremiah meant here, and really what the writer of Hebrews is still saying here, is that the law means Torah. It means the Old Testament law. Well, let's take a look at that, because that is an erroneous conclusion. It is not Torah that Jeremiah is speaking of here. You got to remember, he is speaking prophetically, and certainly the writer of Hebrews does not mean Torah. How do we know this? Well, it is rather easy to figure out, because this is the new covenant that the writer of Hebrews is talking about. It's a new covenant that that Jeremiah was talking about. So if it's a new covenant, it stands to reason that it's not the old covenant. Now, if we look at the history of covenants in general, and remember who's in charge of the covenant is the high priest. We learned in the last section of Hebrews, last chapter, that a change in the priesthood necessitates a change in the law. And this is really what the writer of Hebrews has proven already, as he has gone through his argumentation here in the book of Hebrews. For him to say that the new covenant with its new priesthood requires a new law has precedence. Because remember, Melchizedek was the high priest in Abraham's time. Now, we don't have a record of what the laws were then, or the nature of the covenant that was in effect then. But we do know this for sure, that when Aaron was appointed to be the high priest by God, that there was a change in the law. The old law, that whatever it was, ceased to exist, and Torah was brought into being and was brought into force, and was made the law of, well, it's made the law of Israel. Every Jew had to live under that law. Likewise, now that a new high priest, namely Jesus Christ, has appeared, there is by necessity another change in the law. We cannot have a new high priest and the same old law, because a new high priest necessitates a change in the law. I know I'm kind of repeating myself here, but it's important to grasp that and understand that. The implication is clear. Torah no longer is in effect for God's people. God has appointed a new high priest, therefore God has established a new law. And so, as we have said in previous videos, when was this new law started? Well, on the Sermon on the Mount, of course, Jesus began to explain what the new law was. It doesn't mean that the new law took effect then. And a lot of people get confused by that. And that is one of those things you have to deal with when you're studying New Testament, is to understand that even though Jesus was beginning to establish a new law, that new law did not take effect until his death and resurrection. That's when the new covenant actually took effect. But that doesn't mean that his teaching couldn't begin at the beginning of his ministry. He was born, after all, prophet, priest, and king, and so his teaching as high priest is new, is not the old Torah, it is new covenant law. We don't often think of Jesus as being a lawgiver, but that's exactly what he was. He was giving a new law. There was a change in the high priesthood, therefore there's a change in the law. So I hope so if we go back then, I think it's good to go back to what Jeremiah had to say and reread that and insert the proper understanding of things, of the word law, into the context of this prophecy. So let's go back to verse 10. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares the Lord. I will put the commandments of Jesus into their minds, and I will write the commandments of Jesus into their hearts. And I will be their God. Actually, Jesus will be their God, right? And they shall be my people. They shall be my sons and daughters, and they shall be his brothers. See where all this is going? Doesn't it make a whole lot more sense? And they shall not teach each other, and they shall all know me. All what did Jesus say? My sheep hear whose voice? My voice. We all know Jesus. We don't need to be told who Jesus is. Doesn't mean we don't need to be taught about things that Jesus said, but we all know Jesus. That's the important thing. For I will be merciful towards their iniquities, and I will remember their sins no more. Isn't that true? We are saved. Our salvation guarantees that we do not have to face the consequences of our sin. We are no longer under the wrath of God. I hope this has helped you as much as it helps me to have a proper understanding of what the new covenant really is and the great promise that God has made and fulfilled in Jesus, and that because he lives forever. Sorry, I got interrupted there for a second. Because he lives forever, the terms of the new covenant can never be altered, abridged, or changed in any way, shape, or form. It is a covenant that will last forever and ever through all eternity, and that will forever define our relationship with our Creator and our Savior. I hope this video has been a help to you as it's been a help to me, and I hope you're blessed by it. Until next time, when we further explore the ramifications of the similarities and differences of the Old Covenant, God bless you.